Mac Rhodes at 420. Chris Hummer, 247, college football writer, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Chris, what was your reaction when you started to learn a little bit? And have you ever heard of Brett Yormark? But his resume as a businessman seems to be very, very good.
Yeah, new name for me. I won't lie. I don't deal with the entertainment circles very frequently. So when that started to pop up yesterday, I was a bit surprised. But I will say, I know the Big 12 has been trying to be as creative as possible, trying to fill that role, given the many challenges on the horizon for college athletics. And obviously, it's been a turbulent, I guess, 2 or 3 years now, going back to the start of COVID. So in a lot of ways, this makes sense, pulling the lens back a little bit. So I think it's an interesting move, but in some ways a smart one for the Big 12 moving forward.
Yeah, Chris, I think anybody who says they know a lot about Brett Yormark that's in our business today is probably pretending, to put it nicely. So with the new thing with the new commissioner and outside the box hire like the Pac-12, how important do you think it is for conferences like the Pac-12, which was incredibly poorly run, and the Big 12, where disaster seemingly looms around every corner, to think well outside the box?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on who you talk to. I don't think Bob Bowlesby did a terrible job. He was certainly blindsided and lost his 2 most important pieces to the SEC. But I live in Austin. That was a really well kept secret, if we're being honest. And obviously, it's a problem that Texas and Oklahoma moved on. But Bob Bowlesby was very well respected. But I would say Bowlesby was a little more rigid in his thinking about athletic function, a lot more traditional. A legend in the industry, no question, but someone who takes a different vantage point, kind of one of the old guard. I think moving forward, and we've seen this with the last 3 commissioners at the top 5 level, they've all come from outside traditional, or at least 3 of the last 4. They've all come from the traditional college athletic circles. And I think experiences in this case, a lot of things going to be moving forward. I think we're getting towards eventually players being able to union.
Okay,
going to be important.
Chris, we're losing you on the cell, and sorry about that. We missed part of what you were saying. We've got some of it, but we'll try to see if we can reestablish that as well. That's happened a lot.
That's happening a lot lately. I don't know what's going on. That's happening every single show. There's some sort of issue with that phone call.
And it could be because of just how the cell service works, but rebooting that. We'll have Chris Hummer back with us here momentarily as well on Brett Yormark, and apparently he will be named. In reports, again, Ross Dellinger last night, SI.com, the Big 12 commissioner, and is their leading candidate. That's going to happen. And then I spoke to somebody today, as I mentioned earlier, and it's just a matter. It won't be official today, but it will be official very, very soon as well. The feedback on the chat room seems to be, hey, give him a chance.
Yeah.
It also seems to be they love the fact that not everybody, but thinking outside the box, and the possibility that this is something that is desperately needed because of the eventual new TV deal, and also just even if you had a really good TV deal, finding other ways, additional ways to bring in revenue for the conference.
Yeah, I mean, what's the worst that can happen? They're going to have the conference fold? I mean, yeah, that is the worst that could happen, but how close were they to that just, I don't know, this time a year ago? It felt like pretty dadgum close, and certainly the trajectory that they were on at the time, clearly they needed a little bit of a jolt, and Bob Bowlesby was able to give them a little bit of that with these 4 teams, but now 4 teams coming in brand new, have a little bit of an overlap, however long that ends up being with OU and Texas, but in the meantime, you have a guy who's a fresh pair of eyes, and you got a fresh set of teams. So there's a lot of new and a lot of new opportunities hopefully on the horizon for the Big 12, but that's going to be his job ultimately, is to create those opportunities, create those partnerships, and he certainly comes from a background where he's been able to do that. But again, it's one thing to sell the Brooklyn Nets and Kevin Durant and, Kyrie Irving. It's another thing to sell Matt Campbell and Ames or Dave Aranda and Waco. And I know he's not selling them individually, but it's the brand. That's the brand, right? And the brand for the Big 12 has been Oklahoma and Texas this entire time in its existence. And for a little while is also, you could say, Nebraska or A&M. But, I mean, what is the brand of the Big 12 now? It's the brand of no blue bloods, to speak of, really, and really not at all. I mean, you could argue Kansas in basketball, maybe argue another sport for somebody else, but I mean, football, blue blood wise, they're pretty much not.
Yeah, but I get what you're saying, but it sounds like you're almost like, why are they here? The group of five, they're not going to just like lay down and give up.
Well, that's my point, is that they kind of have been that team that is not even regarded as a group of five by some. They've now lost two of their biggest weapons, and I'm saying, like, how's this guy going to sit there and rejuvenate the product and reinvigorate the interest and make it an interesting, fun, conference to follow, and not a stale product, so to speak. That's all I'm not saying they're not. I don't know.
No, I think the Big 12 had three, what you could call back when it began, Texas, Oklahoma, and Nebraska blue bloods. K-State was good, and there were times A&M was good, and there's times Colorado was good, but they're all gone, and Nebraska's been gone for quite some time. We'll get Chris Humber back again. Craig, Paul, were you asking the question to him? I forgot who was the response that Chris was giving us.
Yeah, just about how important it was for the conferences. And Chris, thanks for bearing with us there. For the conferences, two things outside the box that aren't the SEC and Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And sorry about the phone issues, guys. I need to think outside the box on my cellular plan, it sounds like. But yeah, I think it's really important. Obviously, the SEC and the Big Ten are the power players. We see that from their conference revenue share and their projected conference revenue share, which even in a couple of years is expected to dwarf the other three Power 5 conferences. So the Big 12, the Pac-12, and the ACC have a lot of catch-up to do. And there's a lot of opportunities out there for potential revenue, and there's a lot of kind of sea changes out there on the horizon, and looking outside the traditional groupthink in college athletics is not a bad thing. Like, we see how poorly mismanaged college athletics is right now, and kind of getting outside that box is not a terrible thing at all. And I think that's, talking to some people in the Big 12, I think that's something they had in mind with this hire. And like, I don't know if it's going to work. Like, you got a long road to climb to catch up to where the SEC and the Big Ten are. But like, if you're the Big 12 and you hope to survive long term, you have to take big swings. And I think this is a big swing.
Chris, you